Welcome back into the show. Dr. Justin Anderson, Metabolic Coaching, right here on AM 580. Once again on this Tuesday morning, cutting the killer carbs. That's the name of the game.
You got that right.
And it's really sometimes can be a mental game, Doctor. You know, I mean, you keep saying during the break, well, I'm trying to get Wade Wilkes to do this. I'm like, oh, man, I don't know if I can do it. Make the commitment. But yeah, I need to try. But don't try, do. Don't try, do, right? Of course, along the way, if you'd like to join in on the conversation, feel free to do so. 745-5800, of course, check us out on the website, too, metaboliccoaching.net. We have a special guest in the studio. Gayle Robertson is here on the show. No relation to Glenn, my co-host. But nevertheless, welcome, Gayle, to the show. Glad to have you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So I'm assuming since Gayle is here on the show, Doctor, she'll be telling her story, which you bring a lot of people in on this program, and they talk about their stories, their plateaus, their challenges, if you will,
Yep.
on how they've done and on the weight loss side of things. And so I'm sure we're going to get another great story out of this.
One of the things that I think is the most helpful for people, whether they're thinking about doing the metabolic coaching program or for existing clients, is to kind of hear what somebody else is doing and how it works, and to kind of share their tips. And so Gayle has been doing the metabolic coaching program about 4 months, and she's averaged about 2 pounds, a little over 2 pounds of weight loss every week, on average, week after week. And so you told me how many pounds has it been?
35.
So 35 pounds. And so I just wanted to bring her in and kind of ask how she's been able to do that, because a lot of times I tell people, not to make any comment on your age, but for the postmenopausal female, average weight loss is 1 or 2 pounds a week. And Gayle has been managing to do 2 pounds a week. And so I thought it would be good for her to tell us how she's done it.
Okay. All right. Well, and so 35 pounds so far? Is that what you
far.
Is that what you said, Doc? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
35 pounds so far.
Uh-huh.
So if I were to use my math, I would say that's been about 2 pounds a week, roughly, right? So
Right.
you're probably looking at about 2 months, 2.5 months here, probably, or what are we looking at?
Since February the 24th.
Oh, really?
That's when I enrolled in the program.
Ah, okay.
And 4 times 4 is 16.
Yeah.
35 divided by 16, a little over 2.
Okay.
And it's not 2 pounds every week.
Yeah,
you'll have a couple of pounds. Like the first week, I lost 11.
The first week?
The first week.
Wow. Boy, that's your body saying yay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, was it kind of... because look, I did fasting for a while, and I haven't fasted in a couple of weeks, but I was doing that. Mm-hmm. And I lost 10 pounds doing 48, 72-hour fast kind of stuff. And watching carbs. I mean, I believe carbs are the, again, a lot of these nasty carbs out there. Some carbs are good for you, vegetables, I get it. But some of them, the sweets and the sugars and just the breads and some of the stuff that we're eating are just really putting on the pounds on a lot of people. But my point is though, if you lose 11 pounds in 1 week and then the next week you slow down to 1, does that kind of frustrate you?
No, not really.
It didn't?
No. I've been at this weight loss thing all my life.
Oh, really?
Basically. And every time I'd start a program, yes, the first week you lost big. Because it's water weight generally.
Okay.
And then after that, you settle down into your more normal type weight loss. But never have I had the success or felt the change that I felt with this program.
Well, what kind of programs were you trying before?
Why, everything. Every pill, every gimmick, Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Atkins. I tried them all. I mean, I've been overweight. I can recall being on diet pills at 12.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So
At 12 years old.
So that means I'm old.
Wow.
So because back when I was that age, that was a common practice.
when you were a child, because I've heard obese people say this, that other doctors have told them, and it's usually a primary care physician or something on that order. They'll say, "Oh well, you're just genetically predisposed
Exactly.
to be fat," and that's kind of frustrating, right?
It's very frustrating.
when you hear that.
My mother was 5'2", weighed about 110 pounds. My dad was 6'4", and got pretty close to 300. So I can remember thinking, well, I took after Daddy.
Because that mindset of
They
all
put it
genetic.
there.
Yeah,
They put it there.
It's all genetics. Gail, it's in your brain.
Exactly.
What's going to happen?
I think in a lot there's some truth to that, which is that genetically you're predisposed to not tolerate carbohydrates very well.
Yes.
You don't have to be genetically predisposed to being overweight, but your body is made to where it stores away carbohydrates as fat instead of burning those carbohydrates as energy, which isn't fair, because there are some people who can eat all the carbohydrates they want all day long and they stay thin and skinny as a rail, you might say. But probably 2/3 of Americans, excuse me, 2/3 of Americans tend to store away the carbohydrates and the sugars as excess fat.
2/3.
So what is different with this? What is different this time around with the metabolic coaching program rather than all the other programs you've tried in the past? I mean, why is this working?
My mindset. 5 years ago, I had my second diagnosis with breast cancer, and my surgical oncologist suggested that I try the caveman diet or paleo. And I looked at the papers that she gave me and thought, nah, I can't do that. But this time, when it finally got to the point where I realized that my health is in jeopardy because of the way I'm eating, and I'd eat anything that didn't outrun me, because I was trying to feed that addiction, because I know that's what it is, the addiction to the sugars and the wheats. And after a month on this program, I was able to get off my blood pressure medication. After 6 weeks, I'm off my arthritis medication. I can move better. I can get up out of a chair without assistance. It's embarrassing when you go to a ball game for your grandchild.
Wow, yeah.
And your son-in-law has to pull you up off the bleacher. And the science background that I had told me in the back of my mind that there was something there, and it wasn't a pill.
Right.
That something would, it was simple, but I just didn't know what it was. And I started reading about this on Facebook, and I signed up, and we've been moving right along.
But has it been challenging? I mean,
the first couple of weeks it was.
Because when I look at that and say, okay, you're saying that I got to have, or I can't have any more than 20 carbs a day. That's not very much. And ever since we started this radio program, I've been watching and looking and reading labels more, that kind of stuff. But there are so many hidden carbs and so many outright that they'll tell you on the label, hey, this one burrito has 47 grams of carbs. One little microwavable burrito.
That's right.
And I'm thinking, okay, I ate that one thing and I busted. And it's just unbelievable. So the point is has it been enormously challenging, or is it just one of those situations where you get to a point in your life and you're saying, if I don't do it,
I think that's part of it. But also, if you start out in the very beginning and you start making notes, writing everything down, or use an app on your phone, and it's a combination of the two with me, is write it down and check. Read your labels is the main thing, because the food industry, I think, is out there to keep us addicted to all this garbage. because it makes money for them.
Sure.
I was really disappointed that my favorite dill pickle had sugar in it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
well,
you wouldn't.
It's,
and the
it's hard
ones-
to find a pickle that
Yeah.
doesn't have sugar in it.
My mother made dill pickles when I was
Yeah.
growing up, and she didn't put sugar in them.
Right.
So I just
Well, they sneak it in there, right? I mean, if
Exactly.
you read labels, and I like I said, I'm a label reader now. I mean, my wife's a health coach, and so she's really on top of all this. And so she does it like just like it's no big deal. But I'm always amazed when they stick in stuff like high fructose corn syrup in bread. You know, like
I
you
don't
read a
understand.
whole grain bread, which by the way, whole grain bread is not in this diet plan, by the way. But even you would think, you know, people instinctively think, well, whole grain bread's got to be healthy, right? And then
Well-
you read through the label and it's got high fructose corn syrup in the bread. Why would you stick that in the bread? Why? To addict you to our product. It's an addictive substance.
So there are two really good tips there. Number one, read all the labels. Number two, write things down, because a lot of the clients who get stuck or reach a plateau or whatever, they're not writing things down or tracking them through an app, and then I'll ask them to write them down, and they think they're eating 20 net carbohydrates a day, but really they're eating 60, or sometimes even 80. Just because they're not writing it down. But read the labels, write down the carbs, and that'll help to keep you on track. You don't have to do it forever, but you do have to do it until you get a sense of, you know, how many carbs are in whatever this is, whatever that is. Because in the beginning you have to look them all up, because you really don't know.
You really don't, right?
I do want to tell you one experience after I'd been on this for a month. Went to a class reunion. This made a believer out of me. Went to the class reunion. We had hot dogs that night, which that wasn't an issue. Made the hot dog without the bun. Used the sauerkraut and all the fixings that I could. Ate that, was fine. Then Jim brought cookies to the table. And there were two little cookies, maybe about 1.5 inches across. And I said, these can't hurt. So I ate two cookies.
All right.
And a couple hours later, it was time for us to go home, and I start across the parking lot, and I double over with extreme stomach cramps.
Yeah.
I had been clean for that 1 month. I had all that stuff out of my system. And that should tell you right there that it's not good for you.
Yeah.
Because I asked Dr. Anderson about it. He said, that's typical.
It happens all the time. Yeah.
So,
That's a real common story. Is somebody's on the diet, and the metabolic coaching program is essentially low carbohydrate, wheat-free, gluten-free, sugar-free. If I was just to kind of sum it up, and when people they say, "Oh, I'll just have a cookie or I'll have the bun today," then within a couple of hours, either their joints are hurting, or they're having abdominal pain, or they have to run to the bathroom or something, and they realize once you get to feeling better, you realize how those foods were kind of making you feel all the time. But you couldn't recognize that the wheat and the sugar and the carbs were making you feel that way when you feel that way 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, and so people who are, you know, again, just you've told the story too about the patient you had that was like they were going on a trip and we pull over, have a hamburger, and I think, I'll just have the hamburger and I'll eat and then the next thing you know, they're dead 50 miles down the road, they're sick.
Yeah, they're sick. They're sick by the time they get to post.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's
I don't doubt that.
wow.
Now you keep it. You've always said you come to the follow-up meetings, and you've always said you keep it real simple.
Right.
And so, what is your typical day? What do you eat? Kind of breakfast, lunch, and dinner? What is just a simple low carbohydrate diet for you?
I am basically down to maybe one good meal a day because I'm not hungry. I have my coffee in the morning. Some mornings it's bulletproof coffee. Some mornings it's just plain coffee.
Bulletproof coffee is
Coconut oil, butter, and coffee, and you blend it together, and good stuff.
yeah.
So a lot of times we might eat, say, around 4 o'clock in the evening. I might have a snack, either some cheese or bacon or something like that, just to, if I start to feel hungry, but yet I don't want the full meal.
Yeah.
And I might eat one good meal a day, but they tell you once you get on this plan, if you're supposedly doing it right, that's common in a lot of people.
Yeah, your appetite is really decreased. You're not, because the sugars are constantly elevating and the carbs elevating and then dropping, elevating and dropping,
That's
which
right.
is forcing you to put
Well,
something in.
that hunger.
Yeah, it's forcing
that
you to
insatiable
hungry
hunger.
every 2 to 3 hours. You got to eat something.
And so you're kind of one meal a day. What is typical one meal?
A meal, some type of protein, either beef or chicken or something like that, and a salad,
Fish.
or or a vegetable of some type. I don't typically try to invent things that taste like the old stuff.
Not trying to reinvent low carb candy.
That's
and
right,
cookies.
because that's what got me here, and I do have a fear of the mental aspect of eating something sweet and that kicking me back.
Like if it was
Well-
made with stevia or something, or almond butter or whatever. You're afraid of that. Some on the diet plan like that. Because
Yeah, there's a lot of them that do,
That-
but I know myself well enough, and I've been on enough diet plans, and this is not a diet plan. This is something I intend to stay with for the rest of my life. But sweets was an issue with me. If it was, I could somebody bring in 12 hot donuts and leave the room, and they'd come back and there would be a bag of crumbs.
Wow.
Yeah, and we've had more than one client sit here in the radio show and say the same thing. They'd eat a whole bag of donuts or a whole box of donuts. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's hard for me even on the real high sugary stuff, even though I'm not on the plan fully. But now, like the other day, I think it was about a month ago, 2 months ago, there was one of our morning guests, and they're just trying to be nice. And it's just, it's a society. It's a social thing.
Right.
But they showed up to do the radio program, and they brought a box of Krispy Kremes. And they set them on the table right here and said, oh, I brought you some donuts. And with it, we had coffee going, and we always have coffee going in the studio here. And they opened up the box, and I was just like, man, I can't eat that. I said, I'll eat one of those. It'll send me to the moon. And they said, well, why not? And so I had to explain to them that I was fasting, and it was just because I'm tired of working out, and I work out religiously, but I got tired of the fact that I wasn't really making any progress, because you can't outwork out a poor diet.
No.
You just can't do it.
No, you can't.
And so I was trying to really kind of watch, the sweets and limit the breads and those kinds of things. But almost it's, once you explain it to them, it's not like you're being rude. I just can't eat that.
Two things. Number one, Debbie, who she was on the show, she said, I can't eat that food that you guys eat. I'm allergic to it. It makes me break out in fat. And
Yeah,
so
that's a good way to put it.
And then I knew that my mindset had changed when I was sitting at the office one day, and this nice office lady, she brought me this it was someone's birthday. She brought me this beautiful slice of red velvet cake. And she said, oh, Dr. Anderson, would you like a slice of cake? And I looked at it, and the thought that went through my mind honestly was, do I want to poison myself today?
Right.
Because I knew that all the sugar and the wheat and the flour and everything would make me feel horrible. And so when you see something like the donuts or the cake or what is the thought that goes through your mind mentally?
Nothing now.
Uh-huh.
Nothing. It's just kind of like, that's not something that I want to partake of. I've been to two of my grandchildren's birthdays, and I have realized that I can get by without the birthday cake and the ice cream, that I can just sit and have a good time and enjoy the company.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what our society has done, is we have made everything about food
Right.
instead
Good point.
of just the fellowship.
No, you're spot on with that. because that's what, I mean, literally, that's exactly, back in the old days out around here, we had donuts in here every day, or something along that line. And of course, I'm back in my 20s, and you know how it is in your 20s, and most people in their 20s. But it didn't seem to affect me back then. But you get addicted to that without actually knowing about it, and then you get to where. And I still occasionally go have some ice cream, but more and more I find myself where I'm like, I don't really need that right now.
Yeah.
And
You know what book you might like, Wade?
what's that?
You might like The Bulletproof Diet, because it's about performance.
Oh, okay.
It's about being better. Because a lot of people, a lot of times you've said, well, this diet is for people who are very overweight or diabetic or, serious medical conditions. But the Bulletproof Diet's by a guy named Dave Asprey, and he really talks a lot about performance. You want to think faster, be stronger, look better, and so it's the same basic principles. And you might like that one.
I would, because I'm on the razor's edge.
Yeah.
On going full hardcore, full blown, right? But I find what's most challenging, and back to Gail on this, I think what's most challenging is I can do it a couple of days and be like, it's no big deal. And then I find myself where I'm like, I ate something, and I'm like, that did have carbs in it. And it's the educational aspect of it all,
Right.
I think, is the most challenging, right? It's not really that you feel like I'm being deprived. It's, okay, what foods can I do and ones I should avoid?
Right.
And just having the educational piece. Would that be,
Oh, I think that's.
is that correct?
Oh, yeah. I'm on 2 or 3 other Facebook pages
Okay.
for this type of eating plan.
Right.
And there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of people that are trying to wing it on their own, and that's what I like about this, is we can go in every week and share our experiences, and we can contact Dr. Anderson directly if we have any questions.
Mm-hmm.
And it
That's
works.
the point.
It works.
It's the sessions.
Mm-hmm.
It's the talks. It's the tapes. It's wiring the brain, so to speak.
Right.
There's a lot that goes into it. It's not just as simple as saying, hey, avoid all carbs. I mean, you've got to really figure out, a lot. There's got to be some work put into it.
Exactly.
Do you do or have you done the subconscious reprogramming tapes you listen
Yes,
to
I
at
have.
night?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
They work.
I've heard those.
They work.
If I'm really, can't sleep or my brain won't shut off, I'll listen to Dr. Anderson and I'll go to sleep.
Yeah,
He has a soothing
I
voice.
don't listen to him as much now as what I did in the
Right.
beginning, but it's what I needed, because I was a little leery. That I have to admit this, because there's so much stuff that goes on in
Right.
this, this type
Yep,
world.
Right.
And when he said subconscious, I sat and I listened to him while I was awake.
Mm-hmm.
In the afternoon before I tried it, because I thought he's not going to be telling me something I don't want to know.
Yeah. Well, you think about the hypnosis aspect of it. It's not-
Right.
Yeah. You're
Uh-huh.
like, okay, what's...
I used to tell people, I would say, if you go to sleep real easily, you should listen to them one time while you're awake, so that you can know what the content of the audio tracks are. They're audio tracks. I call them guided meditations or subconscious reprogramming audio tracks. But you should listen to them one time while you're awake before you listen to them at night, in bed, going to sleep. But I found so many people, they say, I just listen to them at night. I've never heard them one time, but they work great. So I don't tell people they have to know what's in there anymore.
Right.
Well, it works, and this comes from somebody who's tried it all.
Yeah, I was going to say, so obviously this is a lifestyle change, so you'll get to a point where you'll have plateaus and you have challenges and issues, but how much when you first start, and I think another thing that, correct me if I'm wrong, if people who say, okay, I'm going to make a lifestyle change, but yet I want to lose X amount of weight. And they set a target goal. Like, for example, with morbidly obese people, they may say, well, I got to lose 250 pounds. But what happens in a lot of these cases, they reach their goal using whatever thing they come up with. And then they go, okay, I hit my goal, now I can go back to the way I was. And then all of a sudden, over time, they creep back up again, and it's that yo-yo dieting thing. And so you probably, and I'm just curious here, that you're not looking at it from a standpoint of, yeah, I want to lose 200 pounds. You're just saying, I'm just going to do this forever, and I'll normalize, then I'll be normal.
That's right.
So it's not like a target weight, Gail, that you're trying to achieve,
No,
right?
because I think you can sabotage yourself, because in my case, there's a lot of weight that needs to be lost. But I can tell you, with the 35 pounds that I've lost already, I can tell enough of a change that I want to continue. Because, like I said, getting up out of the chair without assistance, not hurting all the time.
Well, and it's not just the weight either. It's all the emotional effect, the mental aspect. As you've discussed and talked about, the inflammation processes, the rheumatoid arthritis. As those things start to subside, and you start looking at that as opposed to the weight loss, that weight loss is a great benefit to it. But all these other health-related conditions start to subside, and that's even greater than the weight loss itself. Is that right?
Oh, yes. Very
Okay,
much so.
because see, that's what makes sense to me. Because if I was sitting around, and that's why it's hard for me to kind of get into it, because I'm not sitting around with high blood pressure, I don't have rheumatoid arthritis, I'm not on any medication, I'm not type 2 diabetic, on and on and on. But I could see if somebody were on a lot of different medications, trying to lower blood pressure, they had insulin issues, insulin resistance, on and on and on. You're like, hey, I got to do something there. The weight is secondary to those individuals, as opposed to me, where I'm looking at it going, hey, I want to lose 35 pounds.
The thing is that they're all related.
They are.
The same thing that causes you to gain weight makes your joints hurt, and makes your stomach hurt, and makes it to where you can't get around very well. And those things are all the same.
And there was a point in my life where I didn't take blood pressure medicine. I didn't take arthritis medicine. I didn't do any of those things. But it hits, and when it does, the statement, when you get over the hill, you start sliding down. That's how I felt.
Well, and then people justify it. We justify it in our society to say, well, that's just part of getting older.
That's right.
Older and fatter, that's just the way it is.
So
You can't
how
change
long you'd been on your blood pressure medication?
Probably 5 years.
5 years? And now you're off of it?
Right.
Yeah. Arthritis medicine?
I had been taking that for probably 4 years.
And now you're not taking it anymore?
No.
And you're older now than you were 4 months ago?
Yeah.
So you're still getting older.
I'm still getting older, but I'm feeling a lot better.
But the blood pressure, and you had mentioned in the follow-up meetings, you said and you mentioned here you'd done a lot of programs. But you feel different, like you're not. On the other programs, you had said that you were hungry all the time. Does that sound right?
That's right. But I'm not there. I'm not with this one. Like I said, 1 meal a day. Food is for fuel for your body. I don't eat by the clock anymore. I used to get up. I've never been a big breakfast person, but about 11 or 12 o'clock, I would hit lunch, and then I'd have afternoon snack, and then I'd have dinner, then I'd have bedtime snack, and sometimes in the middle of the night I'd get up when I'd have to get up, and I'd think, well, I'll just take a detour to the kitchen. So, no, I don't do that anymore.
That's good. And all this while, you're getting rid of inflammation, getting off drugs, to help with, type 2 and blood pressure stuff. But also you're detoxifying your body at the same time.
Exactly.
Which is obviously improving liver function, kidney function, bladder, the endocrine system. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
Right.
Your gastrointestinal systems, the way your body absorbs the food, uses the nutrients of the food. we all know now. I say we all know. I mean, we're starting to figure this out, that it's all interconnected. And if you have a really poor gut, which a lot of these foods actually ravage the gut
Right.
and the gut lining. And if you're having a lot of intestinal problems and things like that, it's more than likely the food you're ingesting is aggravating that situation.
Right.
And so it's just piling on. But once you start to detoxify the body,
Right.
then those things start to clear up over time, right?
Exactly.
And you feel better
I
all
feel
the same way.
100% better.
Okay.
Another thing that Gail's mentioned a couple of times is that she does one meal a day. And basically, Dr. Bailey, who's your doctor, he's family practice doctor in Levelland. And his story is that about 5 years ago, he was struggling with weight, blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and he went on a very low carbohydrate diet and was able to get off of his medications for weight for blood pressure and diabetes, and lose about 100 pounds over time. And but that's the same thing he does. He does one meal a day. He eats. And so really what Gail is doing is she's combining a very low carbohydrate ketogenic diet along with a fast, like a 24-hour fast every day, if she's doing kind of one meal a day. And so it's a combination of daily fasting with a low carbohydrate diet, and that works. And one of the secrets is if you're doing the low carbohydrate diet and you're not hungry, you don't have to eat. And just like she said, she doesn't stick with the clock. And so that combination can work pretty well for a lot of people.
I think that it does, but I think the fear is that, and I guarantee most people out there listening would say, I can't do that. The fear of it.
You can't have junk. Your one meal a day can't be junk.
That's right. It's going to be wholesome food.
Because I've had a guy who he came to the program and he only ate one meal a day. So essentially he did a 24-hour fast every single day, and he'd been that way for years. And he had gained a lot of weight. He had Hashimoto's, thyroiditis, inflammation of his thyroid, and was in really bad shape. And that's because the one meal a day was evening meal with a lot of bread and a lot of pasta and a lot of sugar and a lot of dessert. And so you can't just do a 24-hour fast every day and eat all the junk at your meal. You do low carbohydrate diet. That's what you eat. And if you're going to do any fasting, that's when you don't eat. And so they go together.
Yeah, they do. They do. But again, there's that fear of some people, a lot of people, that would say, I just can't. There's no way. I don't see how you could do it.
I think are you projecting that? Are you projecting your fears on a lot of people? Wade?
I'm
think so.
fearful. I'm fearful.
That's what it
I
appears
think so,
to be.
Wade.
Yeah, I'm fearful.
No,
No, but it is. It really does.
Well,
I think a lot of people say, I don't know how you do that.
see, 5 years ago, when Dr. Ronahan suggested this, and I looked at the papers, I went, I can't do this.
Yeah.
You weren't ready.
That's right. You've got to be mentally ready to take on this and go forward. To realize that the food industry and the ad council are out to kill us.
But what?
Yeah, I mean that stuff is packaged for your convenience.
Sure.
It is not packaged for your health.
Right.
That's right.
But what? In every case is different. But at what point in is it 2 weeks, 3 weeks when it finally? I mean, where do you kind of get over the hump of this? In other words, like, okay, yeah, you're starting out and you really are focused, but then when do you first start noticing, at least in your case, that okay, this was not that bad. It's just the way it is.
The first 2 weeks, I'll have to admit, were a little bit hard.
Okay.
And because of getting off the sugar. And I think it's more the sugar than it was the wheat. The wheat, I mean, the two of them are combined in nearly every recipe that you see. There's always sugar in with wheat. So I can't say really that it was all sugar. But between the two of them, once I kind of got that out of my system, it was easy.
Yeah.
It's like doing 2 weeks of drug detox. You know.
Right.
Two
And that's
weeks.
what it is. It is a drug. And this is an addiction.
That is the best thing I've heard so far. Is that what you just said there? You're detoxing your body, And then once the brain recognizes that, hey, I'm feeling better, things are improving, then the switch just comes on, right? It's like,
Right.
oh, okay, it makes sense now.
Well, I can drive by fast food restaurants and,
Not even worry about it.
well, no, you know, some of them, their smoke comes out over the street, and
The
how
aroma.
it used to drive you through the drive-through.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't smell good now.
Did
Just,
any of the tools in the program, in particular, help you change your mental attitude, or you had changed when you came?
I think I was changing when I came, and then after I listened to the tapes, watched the webinars,
Mm-hmm.
and with my science background, I knew there had to be something easy.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't a pill. Pills, you know, we take pills for everything, but that had to be something simpler, and this was it.
Mhm.
That's just where I was.
And really, it may sound complex, but it is fairly simple.
It is.
You cut out the carbohydrates, that lowers insulin levels, so you stop storing fat and you start burning it for fuel instead.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of different programs, they focus on different things, and there are a lot of some focus more on what to eat or things, specific things to avoid, but you know, the basis is just avoid the carbohydrates. And that's why I called the original conference in 2013 Cut the Killer Carbs,
Right.
because really it's that simple, and the killer carbs are sugars, wheat, grains, starches, potatoes. Those are high glycemic carbs that raise the blood sugar a lot and raise
Yes.
insulin levels.
And you eat those, and within 30 minutes, you're hungry again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just, I don't know. I just like this better than anything I've ever done. And I've counted calories.
Counted calories, boy, that's tough.
It is.
That's rough. I don't know how. I don't do that. I mean, but because we've talked about the fact that a calorie is not just a calorie, right?
Right.
I mean, you can have different calories to do wildly different things in the
Exactly.
body. No doubt about it.
Right.
Any other kind of tips for people who are just starting the program, who would like to lose a couple of pounds?
My
A week?
deal is just keep it simple. Don't worry about all of the. I see a lot of things about macros. Well, I count my carbs,
Mm-hmm.
and that's basically all I do. And then I've used, like, if I do feel hungry,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you've said we're not getting enough fat if we feel hunger.
Right.
So I go in and get something like some bacon, some protein, cheese, you know, heavy cream even,
Mm-hmm.
and it satisfies that.
Yeah.
And then move on.
Well, I mean, again, what I've been doing, and again, I'm hitting around the edges on this, but I haven't gone full blown yet. But when I snack now, I snack on no carbs at all. Like I will have, you know, I love dill pickles. I make sure that they don't have the sugar in them.
Right.
That kind of stuff. I'll have vegetables. I mean, I could sit around and eat broccoli all day. Raw broccoli's great with ranch dressing. It's fine with me. I don't have any problem with that. I'll have some cheeses, or I'll throw me a couple of eggs in a skillet. And if I'm a little bit hungry and I want a snack, I'll have a couple of eggs, you know.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, so I'm starting to try to look at this from the standpoint of well, don't grab the greasy burrito, or don't you know, grab a bunch of bread. You know, almost every and part of my problem is too, I like to eat out a lot. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, but you can still do it eat now.
But you
I'll tell you,
can.
there's
You
a-
can,
there-
but they always bring bread to the table every time.
Not if you tell them not to.
Well, but they'll bring it anyway. You
Wait,
know, oh, you want some bread?
there's
No. you
Take
know.
it back.
There's a section on the Facebook page. It's called Dining Out Low Carb, and it maybe has 200 different meals I've eaten out along the way,
Right.
and so how you can eat out and still eat low carbohydrate. So, if anyone's interested on the Facebook page, if you click on photos and click on albums, you click photos and then albums, and there's a bunch of different albums, and there's about 170 low carb recipes. There's low carb lunch and dinner ideas, low carb breakfast
that's
ideas,
good to
low
know.
carb products,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and groceries. A lady emailed me today asking what kind of stevia to buy, and so there's about a dozen different albums that have different kind of products and dining out and useful information that way.
Well, I mean, again, I think, like we said at the outset of the show, that when we first opened, I think the biggest challenge is to know what foods to avoid and what foods are okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's the starting the foundation. But then sticking with it so your body has a chance to detox, reorganize, and go, okay, now I'm getting it.
Yeah, there's two components to the metabolic coaching. It's education and behavior modification.
Okay.
So there's the you have to have the education part, and then on top of that you add the behavior modification so that you can do something sustainable that's not just another yo-yo diet.
Right. It is a lifestyle change.
Exactly.
And it's something that the way you're going to eat for the rest of your life. Really. And that's where I go, whoa, okay, I'll try that.
Now you've done traveling. You've done traveling low carb too, right? And
Right.
that's how does your traveling low carb work?
Hey, it worked pretty good. We out.
What did you eat?
Well, we cleaned out breakfast buffets out of eggs and sausage and bacon,
Yeah.
and then for like dinner, we'd go to a place that had a good selection of salads or meats.
Mhm.
A lot of. Because most of the restaurants that I've been to, you can find a salad or an entree that has very little seasoning.
Mm-hmm.
Or I also have found that they will season it the way you want it if you just ask.
Right.
You can't sit there and say, well, they won't do it for you. All you have to do is ask.
And I just mentioned that because there's some people, they'll come to follow-ups and say, oh, I went out of town, I fell off the wagon, But you can go out of town and you can still maintain your low carbohydrate diet. Just like you said, at the breakfast, bacon and eggs, you can find those somewhere.
Pretty much.
And
Even places like Sonic and McDonald's, they'll serve things without the bun,
mm-hmm.
without the bread. We ate out the other night, and the little girl, I was ordering, and she said, well, what do you want in place of the potatoes? And I said, just give another serving of the salad or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. And, well, how do you not want the bread? She kind of looked at me like I was strange.
Sometimes
do
they
you
have
not
trouble
want
with
the
that.
bread? No, I don't want the bread. But it's relatively easy. Like I say, you just have to be forthcoming and don't lie to them. Just say, I don't want this.
Right.
Because I think you have to take control of your own health.
And you have a
That's what
friend
it
who
is.
does it with you, right?
Yes. Hmm. Now, it's a challenge at home because Jim hasn't quite come over to the dark side yet.
Right.
Oh.
He's working on it. He's not too thrilled about some of my experiments meal-wise. Because last night he came in off a trip and I had invented this ground beef thing that had cauliflower and tomatoes and Italian seasoning and Parmesan cheese. He sits down and he goes, what is this? So I started.
Did you have a name for it yet?
No.
No.
I just told him, I said, it's an invention.
Yeah.
There wasn't any comment. He ate it, but that's
Right.
all I can say.
Right. Right.
You can do it on your own.
That's right.
And people have a lot of success doing it on their own. If your family members come along with you, it makes it easier.
It does.
Or if you have a friend who does it with you, then a friend can give you some support in addition to the support that we do in the metabolic coaching follow-ups.
Right. And that helps a lot, is to have somebody that you can, talk to as a sounding board.
Mm-hmm.
What have I done wrong? Or, you just kind of lay it out, write it down.
So did you
can see.
did you get Anna into this, or Anna got you into this?
I got Anna into this.
Okay. And what, because did she see what you were doing and see that you were, or how did that work?
You know, I'm not sure exactly why she chose to go ahead and come on. I think it's the fact that she had, like me, had tried other things in our discussions. I told her how well this was working for me, and the next thing I know, she decided to sign on. So that's I recommend it to anybody. I think, and the younger the better.
Good deal.
'Cause I was supposed to have had knee surgery 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And because of this, the inflammation is gone. I mean, I was suffering, but I thought, you know, they tell you these joints don't last but 10 years, and I intend to live longer than 10 years,
Right.
and I don't want to have it done twice. So I kept postponing. And with this eating plan, it, you know, the inflammation's gone. And
Yeah, and that's a
I'm
funny
doing
thing
well.
is that there are lots and lots of studies that show for knee arthritis, losing weight improves knee arthritis.
Right.
But if you have, let's say you have 50 pounds to lose, when you only have lost 5 pounds, the knee arthritis is better already. The pain is better.
Right.
And so it's not that you carry excess weight that causes pain in the knee. It's that your diet causes inflammation through your whole body, and that inflammation in your whole body makes your knee hurt. It makes your arthritis in your knee worse and makes it more painful. And so by doing a very low carbohydrate diet, it's an anti-inflammatory diet.
True.
And your knee feels better even before you've lost 50 pounds.
Well, I think they tell you for every 1 pound you lose, it takes 4 pounds of pressure off the joint.
That I don't know.
I mean, I've read that somewhere, and I agree, because I can tell a world of difference. I could tell at the end of the first week, when the first 11 pounds came off,
Mm-hmm.
that I was headed in the right direction. So it, like I say, this is something I'm going to continue with.
Good.
Well, I tell you, it's a great story, Gail, and got a couple minutes left. Anything else you guys would like to talk about before we wrap up this morning about anything else? Anybody contemplating it? Is there any other advice you can give them on what to do or how to do it?
The only thing I've got to say is that if you are considering joining, to go ahead and do it, it will benefit you greatly. But like me, I understand where they come from, because you've got to be in the right mental state for it to really work. I mean, you can follow all the rules and do all that, but if your mental state's not right,
Then it's just not. Yeah.
that's fruitless.
Yeah, I'm in that point of getting the mental things.
Wait,
state.
there's an old Chinese aphorism. It says, when the student is ready, the master will appear.
Exactly.
I
That's
gotta
right.
love it.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
Dr. Justin Anderson, everybody. Of course, Metabolic Coaching. Check us out on the web, metabolic-coaching.net. Like us on Facebook, too. You can check out Cut the Killer Carbs on Facebook. Our direct number, again, 448-0322, 448-0322. Gail Robertson, appreciate you being with us on the
Well,
show
thank you. I
as well
enjoyed it
today.
very
It's
much.
fun. Good to always love to hear the stories and the challenges, and then in your case, you're saying it's not a challenge. You're good with it, so that's always refreshing as well.
I'll just say that one of the reasons I brought Gail in here is because it's a message of hope. Because if you struggle with weight your whole life, and if you struggle with weight your whole life and you've done everything, you've done all the diet things, there's still something different that you can do.
Yeah.
Which
And it's never too late.
yeah, it's not too late. You can have hope. You can do it. And good luck to everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Gail.
Thank you.
You'll have a great day.
All righty.
Stick around now. Unconfused coming up next.